Welcome back to another episode of Hermitcraft. I hope you all enjoyed the gag at the beginning of the last episode. I am recording back to back right now. I recorded that episode yesterday. It hasn't even gone out and I'm recording this one because Fullcraft is starting soon. I want to make sure I've got loads of time to get on there and get off to a good start. So I'm recording these episodes back to back and I am anticipating that a lot of people would have pointed out that I called myself 2010 Assumer, which isn't technically true, right? Because I started making videos towards the end of 2011. Hey, it got across the point of the joke. Back then, I used to sound kind of miserable. I always get comments about how I used to sound sad or depressed. And I'll tell you what, when you first start making videos and you record yourself talking, you ain't going to sound like this. It takes a bit of time to learn how to put your passion and enthusiasm into your voice, which I did over the years, and so that was the old boring voice where I talked very plainly. And you probably figured out what we're doing. We're up here. Oh, I need to put these on my offhand to see it. Now, how's that work again? Aren't I supposed to see the map when I hold it? Right, yes, of course. I was in F5 mode, so no, I'm not going to see the map. And there it is. I wanted to update this because what we're going to attempt to do today is to finish this area, okay, the desert area. And I'm actually changing some of my plans a little bit for the buildings I was going to put over here. I've had a fair bit of mixed feedback on this building, and I realised every time I build with sandstone and you try and match it with another colour, you always get mixed feedback on sandstone builds. And I think it's just because the yellow nature of the build really kind of splits opinions on what to do with it. So we're going to build a bunch of buildings in this area here. They're going to be slightly different. And I do want to show you a couple of changes I've made around here before we talk about the big changes that we're going to be making. So I got a suggestion to throw in some birch and spruce leaves into these trees here. I really don't think that works. They kind of, well, there's only two of them there. They just look, I don't know, they don't look right. But I have gone around and thrown in a few oak leaves here and there, and I think that's made a bit of a difference. So these trees are looking cool. Now, when it comes to the blood pit over here, lots of people commenting on how they didn't like this thing floating in the middle. And loads of people talking about making a blood river. In fact, I've had quite a few tweets from people showing me their own blood rivers, and I've decided we are going to incorporate that. We'll tear this down at some point, and we're actually going to make this like the pit where it just disappears down into the ground. So rather than this going upwards in the middle, it'll eventually sink down a little bit, and then from the next biome over, we're going to have the blood river coming through here. And that is going to be very interesting. Wasn't part of my original plan, but I like the change. And we're going to start off by creating the frontier between the two borders, as part of the materials we're going to use for that will extend into this area and become a part of the build palette. So by the end of this episode, I want us to be taking these maps back to the map room, having all of this space filled in here and saying that this is done. You can also see, and am I in Optifine? I am, that I've started to add some blocks over here. They look very orange on the map. They're not as orange in the game. They are hardened clay. So the border that we're going to have between our two biomes was on a plot which was made by Forced Symmetry, not to be mistaken by our neighbour False over in that direction who plays on the server with us. This is Forced Symmetry, and their plot was basically like a hardened clay divider between two areas. So you got this flat bit right before you then have a bit of a cliff going upwards. It's going to be quite jagged and there's going to be lots of variations in the blocks, but for now I'm just going to build this up a little bit. It will probably go up by like, let's see, 5 or 6 blocks to about this height here, and then there's going to be some overhanging dirt and coarse dirt, and it'll be jagged. It won't be straight like that. And I think this is going to make a fantastic biome border because the next biome is just going to be higher up in general. So the problem that I run into at the moment with making this is that we have a big lump of dirt over here that needs removing. You can also see that the sand here is quite higher up, so this will all drop down before it meets the edge of this hardened clay here. And one of the important things about that actually is that it is supposed to be higher than all of the other sands. So where the dirt is right now is where the rest of our sand will go. Just like that. Looking alright. I think what I might want to do is replace some of these blocks with brown concrete powder. I think they would mix in a little bit better, and I did want to use them sparingly in and amongst the hardened clay here. But if we turn around, you can see I've kind of built up the frontier a little bit higher now, and you can see that there is this ridge that sort of goes just about there, like 3 blocks up. We're going to have that go all the way across. It kind of creates a nice definition to the shape of this thing. And then we've got our path down here at the front leading through. You can see using some coarse dirt and some slabs, and then we convert to jungle slabs, and slowly we're going to change the shape of the path. Now what happens here is this is actually going to be basically underground, and there will be perhaps even 2 different paths. It could split up, but it will basically go up to the surface at some point. Not going to worry about that today though, because that'll start when we start work on that biome over there, which is going to be even bigger than the one that we're doing at the moment. One of the things I wanted to grab out of here though was some spruce wood. I was just thinking this looks like it could do with 1 or 2 more textures. Maybe spruce wood just hanging underneath some of these gaps, maybe even there, could help give it a little bit more texture as well. How does that look? I'm not so sure. We may or may not keep that. It looks a little too structured, doesn't it? Doesn't look very nature-like. Another amazing time lapse with replay mods. I love my time lapses, don't I? And I had a lot of fun putting that one together. Let's check out the wall from up in the sky. Well, that was awful. Sometimes flying on this server can be difficult. Let's press F5. Let's try again. There we go. Excellent, excellent. Wow, that is looking pretty cool. The biome behind it isn't going to be quite as dirt oriented. It is going to be brown. That's all I'll tell you for now. That's all I'm going to tell you for now. At the moment the top of it kind of blends in with the background, which isn't so great, but that is just looking super. I would have loved to have landed on top of that. That would have been a great perch for what I want to show you next. Let's see if we can move it forward a little bit. That should land on top of it, or probably land on the other side. I think I might have overdone that. Yep. Aha, it is a great perch, isn't it? And over on this side, I forgot that I needed to put in a river because I've been doing all of this stuff over here. I think this bit is where I'm going to break it, and then we'll have our blood river coming down over the edge, going through this gap into this space here. That is the way that we're going to connect that. I will do that in just a moment. I wanted to walk across here though and just show you what's been done. So nice little transition. It kind of goes flat a little bit too quick, doesn't it? But the other thing that I want to do now is craft up some brown concrete powder and chuck a few of those in here as well. Pretty swish. Swish. There's a word that probably shouldn't associate with blood rivers. Big thanks to Mad Cow for tweeting this idea for me. They sent me a picture of a plot they had made, which I think was on the main plot world because it looks a lot bigger, and there were these gorgeous bone trees, like the trunk of the tree was bone. It was coming off the cliff, kind of like what we got here actually, and going up, and then the blood trees were dripping down because they had blood leaves, and it looks seriously cool. So this is how it's going to go. Do you know when there's a flat line like that, it doesn't always look so great. Let's go and just push a couple of blocks back like so. So the river is going to start somewhere around here. I'm not actually sure where it's going to come from, but it drops down like this. You can see I've used loads of glass panes, and we've put in a few extra down the bottom there. They kind of look like splashes, which I think is cool. Maybe one off the side like, oh, actually that's a really good idea. That's already got one on top of it. I'll mess around with placing these. Maybe we'll put them so they're not attached to a block and they're just floating above here, but that helps give the waterfall a little bit more variance and stuff, and a few of these on the way around here would be good as well, I reckon. So that's looking decent. It links up to this. I've now got to change that thing. And of course we need to just tidy up the landscape here a little bit as well, as I've just sort of carved through here. The other thing I wanted to mention is that maybe this could have been pushed back a couple of blocks. I actually originally built it out sort of spilling off of the top and down over here, leaving the clay behind it. And then I thought that looked odd, so I kind of pushed it back into the clay. Gotta say, once again, loving this project. Tidied up all of this along here, and I decided to take the nether brick, which I only used in the waterfall here, and actually just sprinkle a few of those blocks leading down to this like pit that we have where it just sort of gets sucked into the ground. And there's none of it around this bit here. So we've removed the floating bit, which a lot of people didn't particularly like. The area now doesn't actually look like it's missing something, but because I knew it was there, it makes me think about it. But yeah, it all just sort of dips down into the middle here. And let's go and update the map, because there's going to be a fair bit more to see on this now, isn't there? Okay, there we go. Oh, wow. That's looking interesting, isn't it? So just this area here to do. We'll start off by laying out some paths. We're going to use some birchwood and sandstone for that. So these ones have the path blocks in. They're the more worn down path, so to speak. And then these will wind between the houses. Also going to link up to the building we've got up the back there. And our houses are going to be built out of the cha-cha wood, the baked bean wood, which always divides opinions. So I figured, hey, if I build them out of sandstone and add some colours to them, that's going to divide opinions. Let's use something that's equally divisive. Anyway, so I think one of our paths is going to come out around here. Just going to use a whole bunch of this birch and sandstone together. Got a nice little curve going on here, but then two ugly dots, and I think that's from where we put the map in the item frame when it's inside this area. I'm not 100% sure how that works, but I think what we probably want to do is make a new map so that those dots won't be there, because I've got a feeling when we put them back in the other item frame, they are still going to be there, which is no good. But our path curves around the side here, and I've introduced a new texture which people have been commenting about, and for some reason it only just clicked in my mind, and that is just sandstone stairs that are upside down. They create this texture, and if I'd have known about that from the start, this thing would have probably been everywhere, right? But I'm actually glad that we've just gone with the two so far, as it helps define this path a little bit. So now we've got another type of path here with these blocks between the birch ones, and it just swings around like this. So I've filled in all of the space over the side here. Apparently I missed a bit. Let's replace that with some sandstone. And it leads up to this. You can see the path kind of goes in there a bit. Probably needs an extra bit of birch, which apparently I've run out of, which is probably why there isn't as much here. So it leads up there. And now we're left with all of this space behind us. We're going to put a path going through the middle of it, I think, and it's just going to go across like this and then connect up somewhere over here. Remember the build palette I set out when we started work on this area? Well, one of those blocks was slightly different, and that's the gold block, although it's technically yellowish, I guess. It's actually more stone than it is yellow. The reason that block was included is because there's something I always mean to make in this area, and I keep forgetting about it. Here's the other path, by the way. A moment ago I was thinking, oh, I'm going to put these things just over here in this space, and then I sort of forgot about it. So now I've decided to put it down there, because that area is just a little bit lower than everywhere else, and then it leaves us with two places where we're probably going to have like 3 buildings on one side, 2 on the other. And so what I want to do in the middle of all of this sand and sandstone is have these little like spikes of stone coming out of here, and you can probably guess it, they're going to have lots of gold on them, just like little gold ore deposits coming up and out of the ground. So we can use all of these blocks that I've got right here in my hotbar, kind of randomly arrange them, put slabs on here, and get a little bit of height out of this as well, you know. We'll put the stairs on top of there and just kind of make these little spikes coming out of the ground. Well, I think this can work. It's an interesting little formation to have here down with the sand, and I think the problem is the stone and the sand just kind of hit each other a little too much here. So I was thinking maybe what we'll do is throw up some sandstone slabs against the side of this, maybe even on top of a couple of blocks as well. It's interesting to say the least, isn't it? And it feels like we've got such a tiny amount left to do. I want it to land on the wall. Let's go back up into the sky. Yeah, the gold deposits look alright. I feel like actually I should mix something else in with the gold ore, like some iron ore as well, because there's a bit much of it. And I also went and put some in the ground as well. I felt that kind of helped just make the area look a little bit more uniform. But now it's finally time for us to do some actual building of the houses that are going to go in this area. I've saved it to last. Like I said, 3 on this side and I reckon 2 on this side over here. And there's going to be a whole bunch of cats in this area as well. So if you don't know what this place is, we're on stream.xisumavoid.com again. The Enderman's dropping off mycelium. I hope that doesn't happen in my base. Hey, they can't pick up any blocks on our server, thank goodness. Anyway, over here you can see this plot in front of me. It was made by xisumavoid. Probably butchering that name, but I love this right here. Unfortunately, I didn't want to use the sandstone and hardened clay that they've used. I think it creates a really nice contrast, but I wanted to keep our desert nice and yellow. So back on Hermitcraft, you can see we've got some achacha logs laid down. These are like the foundations for the buildings, so I know roughly where they're going to go. And I'm trying to build up some rocky formations here, but we're using end stone because that's obviously a little bit more yellow and fits into this build palette. And I kind of like that, but I think the balance and the amount of end stone that we're using here needs to be very finely tuned. There's not a lot of blocks we can mix them with. The slabs really do help. If we come around to this side though, you can see the path rubs up against the side here and it gets pulled up around. So just like xisumavoid did it, we're going to have some paths that lead up to the entrances of these houses, and there's some posts to kind of define the path as well, which is pretty cool. So this will be the entrance to this little house, and there'll be another one over here. And at the moment I think these houses are a little bit on the small side. However, I've only been able to squeeze like 2 over here and then a mini one over there, which is probably way too small, and another 2 over there. We'll probably get in a 3rd one on that side once we get rid of the cats. So we are really just pushing the amount of space that we've got here. I think what I'm going to have to do is perhaps alter the path around here or something to get any more in. But for now what I'm going to do is continue building the formation of all the end stone coming out of the ground. You know what I could have done is stretch some of the clay from this area out through the middle here and sort of make it a part of the same thing and have that clay coming out of the ground. But I actually really like the end stone. I feel like it's nice that we've been able to properly include it. And as we go around the outside here, I feel like the best bits are the parts that kind of hide the acacia pillars. Like that doesn't look so good. So I might come around and change that or whatever later on. Also, this is kind of quite narrow here, so there isn't any birch fence posts. And then the insides, I will eventually do something on a live stream, probably put in a few details here and there. They're not really going to be big enough to put any form of project or reason to visit over here. This is just a fun little building project, right? And what I want to do now is put in some of the glass. So here we're going to have a door, and actually that would be high enough to have glass above it. So I might change the frontier? No. Facades, that's the word that I'm thinking of. Anyway, for the insides here, I want to add some glass panes. We're going to go with grey instead of orange. Oh yeah, and that looks kind of rubbish, doesn't it? In fact, we're going to have that problem over here as well. Maybe I'll just put those going all the way across. And they're kind of high up from when you're standing here on the inside, but when you're on the outside looking in, they probably look kind of normal. I'll mess around with that a little bit. I might actually remove the sandstone altogether, the stairs anyway. While I'm playing here, I'm going slightly insane in the membrane, peeps, because these cats, they keep me howling. Why don't I just turn my game sound down? Why don't I think of that before? Hey, I've gotten so into playing and not thought about recording that I've actually finished all of this around the side here. Looking pretty cool, right? We're just going to sort of move around. You can put your eyes on it. I very much like this. I'm sure some of you have opinions about it. You can of course always voice them, but I'm really happy with this myself. Still haven't put those doors in. And then for over on this side, I've rearranged the plots a little bit so that we have 3 different rooms, I guess, and they're all kind of linked together. So we're going to have one room here, another room there, and then these 2 are going to be separated and one over here. So the entrance for these 2 is going to be in this middle spot. So I kind of want to create like a little path going up there and joining them. I think they might actually be a little bit higher than those ones over there. It's kind of hard to tell. I think they are. I think they're actually higher up. And anyway, like we've got a slight difference here between those 2, we've done the same thing here. So the entrance for the one on the end is basically going to go along this side. I'm going to have to break that cactus, peeps, because there is a cat army hanging out with me here. And check out what I've done on this side. Made a little overhang. I actually really like that. Are you able to walk around? You are. That's good. Let's actually walk around the back and then around the front, because this is done. Finito. Finished. And the cats are following me everywhere, because what I want to do is turn this place into basically Cat Island. Cat Sanctuary. Wait, it's not an island. Cat City. How about that? And so every so often I'm going to go, right, you can sit there and hang out in that space. You see, if you want to go up on that half slab, perch yourself up there. That'll be your little spot. And then I'll go inside the buildings and I'll plop some of them down as well. Because they're basically going to keep teleporting to me, right? If I'm up here, they're going to come and visit. Or maybe the kitty cats don't like it inside. Okay, no more of them are teleporting to me. That means we've sort of distributed them around the place. And you can see them perched on all sorts of blocks. They're inside the houses. They're just outside them as well. It's very cool. And that's it. We just finished this project, man. I'm so excited for the next one as well. We will actually take a break from working on these biomes. I want to do a technical project and then we'll come back to working on that area, which is going to be even bigger than this one. So now what we can do is pick this up, have a look at it. There you go. You can see a couple of buildings down the bottom there. And it's done. It's finished. However, we've still got that annoying blob, although there's only one there now. So let's go put this back in the map room and see what it does. And now I've gone and rotated it. In the future, I predict that there'll be many times we'll be standing here watching the progress of the island unfold. That's probably less than 10% of the entire mass of land around the outside here, or at least the amount of work, because that was one of the least ambitious biomes we're going to be doing. As we do, it's time for the flyby, and I gotta say, wow, tremendous view. Those buildings are rather tall, aren't they? However, I think we'll find the biome that'll be behind it over here is going to be quite high as well, so that'll probably end up dwarfing it a little bit, but the view from here is spectacular. I love the wall as well. That turned out great, and that's going to be the end of the episode. If you have enjoyed this one, then leave a like as always. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you in the next episode of Hermitcraft. Ciao for now. Bye-bye.